Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wednesday here on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your host Eric, and this week we are talking about Satanism and a left-hand path. So this week we got our topic from two different viewers, FTW Biology and Gestalt Chimera. They were both wondering if we could do a topic on Satanism and give our opinions and thoughts on it, including whether or not they are mistreated or mistrusted in the pagan community, and if any of them even belong in the pagan community at all. There's a lot of information, and I don't know how much of this anybody else has read, because I haven't had a chance to watch those videos, but I'm going to read it really quick. For some background on what they're talking about, they are a left-hand path practitioner, or for simplicity's sake, a Satanist. I'm assuming there's a difference there, but I don't know what it is because I haven't looked into it. And over the years, I've noticed the severe loathing and repulsion at any number of the pagan community over the beliefs and viewpoints of any kind of left-hand path person, or similar, and or even someone referring to themselves as a Satanist. I've heard any number of pagans say over and over again about how we give the rest of the pagan movement a bad name, and only heard people that retort, and further now how people outside the community misunderstand what any number of the pagan religions actually believe. I've also heard people retort that we're actually Christian because we worship the Christian devil, which is actually not correct for a number of Satanists or left-hand path people, and I myself certainly do not. Or that we shouldn't call ourselves Satanists because it's using a negative Christian word, though they raise the point that words like witch, heathen, and pagan are also words with negative connotations as far as Christians are often concerned. So there are several things that three things most specifically that I want to address directly out of that information, and that's one, how they give the rest of the pagan movement a bad name. And then I'll get to the other two later. The first thing I want to talk about is whether or not I have seen that Satanists or left-handed path persons, like I said, I don't know much of a difference between those two terms because I've never really looked into it. But are they looked down on, or are they persecuted, or are they what was the wording? It was, are they mistrusted or mistreated in the pagan community? I would probably assume so. I haven't actually met very many Satanists, maybe two in my entire life, and the first time was probably long enough ago that I was still going to church with my parents, and I didn't think they were a terrible person, so I didn't really think anything of it. So yes, I have run into a couple of people who are Satanists and call themselves Satanists, and I don't have a problem with their religion or their choice of religion. I don't understand it, and that's probably something that is a fault on my part, that I haven't tried to understand it. But it is something that I don't choose to do, but I have no problem with them doing it. I bring up 2 points at that juncture: whether or not it harms people, and if it does, then that's bad. And if it doesn't, who cares whether they're doing it or not? And the second of which is, are they recruiting? Now, one of my biggest problems with many mainstream religions, Abrahamic or not, are the fact that they send people out as missionaries and proselytizers, and that pisses me off. If they're not proselytizing, and they're not recruiting people actively, and they're not hurting anyone, what's the problem? Just because, freedom of religion should extend to all religions doesn't mean you can exclude the ones that don't fit into your positivity. If that's your problem, then whatever. That you still need to allow them to do what they want to do. That's what freedom of religion means. If you can't do that, you're in the wrong group. Anyway, so the next thing I wanted to address was the fact that they're actually Christians because they worship the Christian devil. Now, I'm going to have to call a load of bull on this one because I explain it this way. If you get right down to brass tacks, you are a Christian if you believe that Christ is your Savior. Not that you believe in His existence, because that would make many, many, many people straight up Christian. Now, Rich on Mondays is a really interesting case because he calls himself a Christian witch. So he believes that Christ is his Savior. He actually happens to believe other things on top of that, like his ancestors are to be venerated and to be worshipped as as higher beings themselves, which is awesome. But that doesn't make him not a Christian. That just makes him not strictly Christian. But because he believes that Christ is his Savior, that makes him Christian. A Satanist does not necessarily believe that Christ is his Savior. He may believe the entire opposite. And I could kind of see on kind of an outskirts sort of looking at it sidelong from an uninformed perspective, I could see why Satan was a guy that you'd want to be friends with. Not because evil is supposed to be keep it close to your chest, whatever. No, because if I understand correctly, Satan in the Christian mythos wanted nothing more than to bring all of God's children back to him. And the only problem was he wanted to force them to do so. So it wasn't necessarily that he was a bad guy, he just went about it the wrong way. And, that's an opinion. That's just kind of how I see it. Not that I'm going to, establish a church venerating him specifically, because I still think that there are terrible things that he has done, and that's neither here nor there. Just because you believe that Yahweh and Jesus and Satan or Lucifer existed as people and as deity does not make you Christian. So I wanted to address that really quick. The last thing I want to get off my chest here is using Satanism and Satanist and things. Stop using that phrase because it's using a negative Christian word. I've been calling myself a heathen for quite a few years now. And when people look at me funny, it gives me the opportunity to start a conversation. But I do oftentimes use it as a buzzword. I use it to get people's attention. It's not because I want to shock them or anything, but that's kind of how it works. I know that if I use the word heathen, people are going to assume that I mean hedonist, and then I can tell them, no, I'm not a hedonist, I'm a heathen. And that's one of my favorite phrases in polite company. But no, I'm not a hedonist, I am a heathen. And this is what that means. And then if they want to continue the conversation, we can do that. And if they go, oh, okay, so you believe in the old German gods? And well, the Norse gods, but yes, that's... And then we can have that conversation or not, depending on how they react. But when you get into such an Abrahamically heavy region, and the world is very Christian, as we know it, but when you use a word like Satanist, it gets far more shock than is really usually required to start that conversation. But if that's what you call yourself, and if that's what you do, you're going to be immediately set into the category of, those people. And I say those people, in a very broad term. By those people, it's the people who, the public is already assuming that you're doing human sacrifice, or at least animal sacrifice if you can't get away with the human sacrifice, and that you're venerating something and holding up to, worship something that they're afraid of. And what is, ignorance is the biggest cause of fear. However, you're going to immediately take your beliefs and put them next to somebody else's, and they're going to immediately clash because you may believe something different about Satan or Lucifer or whoever, however you want to call him. And You may believe something different, but they have set in their mind, because of, how they grew up and what the church tells them, they are going to have that set in their mind unwaveringly, and they're going to prejudge you. No matter what you try and explain, and no matter how you try and broach the subject, when the word Satanist comes out, Christians look at you like you are an evil person, and that's just kind of how it's going to be. Pagans should be different. Oftentimes, I'm sure they're not, and unfortunately, there's little we can do about that other than maybe get the message out. I may be a Satanist, but I'm a good person. Where have you heard that before? Anyhow, these are my opinions on the subject. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to post those in the comments section below. What do you guys think about this? I'm sure you all have opinions. Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, everybody, and of course, until next time, Odin be with you.